Autonomous vehicles can be a powerful resource for helping people with disabilities get around. So to increase accessibility here in Minnesota, Senator John Jasinski says the state needs to strike the right balance, creating enough regulations to welcome driverless rideshare services, but not so many that they build regulatory roadblocks. Senator, welcome to Senate Spotlight.
Hey, thanks, Veronica. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
It's been a while.
I'm thrilled to have you here. I think last I saw you was on that bonding tour.
Yes, it was.
All right. Well, today we're actually talking about transportation.
Sure.
You're a ranking minority on the Transportation Committee, and you guys have been hearing a lot about autonomous vehicles this session. So some people might not understand what that means in the context of how you guys are legislating. So let's talk about that. And are they here now?
They are here now. They're actually testing and doing some mapping with people in the cars. They're just trying to kind of map out the area of Minneapolis and St. Paul mostly. They have to do some research, so they're kind of testing, but there's no specific law right now that prohibits them, so it's kind of a gray area. But before an automated vehicle company would invest much money in coming here, they want to make sure that everything is legal and they have the regulations and everything and the safety procedures in place before they make that investment in coming here. So that's kind of where we're at right now, is to put that framework into place so they can come in Minnesota and make an investment and hopefully see how things work.
What are some of the potential benefits of bringing that technology here? Like, why do we want it?
Oh, because there's lots of people that can't drive right now. I mean, the Epilepsy Foundation came in. Some of their people can't drive, but to have this function and have this this type of technology to come in, hopefully at a low price, so they can afford to do that, give them their independence by having a vehicle available for them to ride around the state, Minneapolis and St. Paul as well. So it allows a lot of people that can't get to work for some reason or not, or don't have a license for some reason, a medical condition or something like that. So it just provides that technology to get them where they need to go.
Aside from the accessibility piece, we know that technology can be a bit of a double-edged sword. So what kind of concerns are there about having this here?
Well, I think Minnesota, the weather, there's that's some of the things we've heard about is the weather here in Minnesota, very icy and snowy and things like that is one of them. And obviously the companies that want to come here want to be safe, and there's been testing done in many other states. They're fully functioning in other states, so the technology is there. And there are the other states, I think it's New York and Michigan, there's been some winter testing in the elements, and that's going well. So they just want to expand their scope here in Minnesota. They want to get obviously nationwide, so they're coming to Minnesota to see if they can continue on with the technology here.
Now, why do you think the legislature is so interested in this session?
I don't know. It came to the topic. The governor's had a CAV task force for many years, and they've been doing some of the studying on this, and I've been on that. So they're looking at it. Obviously, technology is coming, and we want to make sure that we can continue on technology. It just seems to be the year the bills are here. I think there's 3 or 4 different bills. Now, I'm on a bill with Senator Johnson Stewart. Senator Dibble has his bill. I think there's a McEwen bill here in the Senate, and there's also Aaron May Quaid bill. So there's, I think, 4 bills that I've seen coming, different ones. Again, I think the one that is kind of the standard framework for other states is my bill and Senator Johnson Stewart's. Senator Dibble has another bill, and much more restrictive from what I've heard of any other state in the nation. So it's got a lot of regulations, and I call it, yesterday we were in committee, it's almost like death by regulation. There's so many regulations on there that I don't think these companies would come to Minnesota. So that's what I've been working to do, is trying to reduce some of these regulations so that these companies do want to come to Minnesota.
Well, then tell me more about your bill. That's Senate File 4010, and it kind of talks about public safety in relation to autonomous vehicles. Mm-hmm.
Well, we're trying to run through, again, the governor's had a connected automated vehicle task force for years, so they've been studying this already, looking at things like that. My bill would go through MnDOT. There's already existing framework for that, for the regulation. I think Senator Dibble bill goes through DPS, which puts many more regulations on there. Again, they have another group to look at it, and there's many people on that, but really it's already existed for years through the MnDOT side of it and looking at that. So I believe that's the easier track to go through. Again, we've been working on it for years already, so to put a whole new different board into place with Senator Dibble's bill, just to me it seems, again, it's death by regulation here. So
What kind of regulations would you be in favor of? Because I heard in committee that this is emerging technology, so maybe it's best to kind of rein it in before it gets a hold, and we have to walk back some of that.
Sure, and you know, in Minneapolis and St. Paul, there are obviously some issues. You know, if there's a concert going on downtown or a football game at US Bank Stadium, so they'll be looking at doing some geo mapping and things like that, where, you know, where the cars could stop, loading, unloading, things like that are some of the concerns that I'm hearing from the metro cities. Now, in rural Minnesota, we don't have quite those choke points like they do here in Minneapolis and St. Paul. So I think it's just to make sure that they operate smoothly, they're not holding up traffic in certain areas. If something would happen, you know, is there a technology that could be taken over if an issue happens, and how does that happen? So I think we want to make sure they're safe in that way, so they're not having an impact on traffic.
Any idea or best guess when I can just use my phone and order up a driverless vehicle?
Well, I hope sooner than later. The bill, Senator Dibble's bill, pushes it way out till 2028, and I just don't think we need to wait that long. I think technology is there. Again, these are operating in Arizona, California, and places like that. Michigan, there's, you know, a bunch of stuff going on there. So I'm hoping 2027, you know, but again, things seem to technically move a little slow around here. So we're trying, and I'm hoping sometime in 2027 or 2028. They're out there. Again, they are testing, they're mapping, they're doing a lot of work. They're doing investments already to make sure that the cars see everything and how the objects are, you know, seen by the car, and mapping the streets out and parking and all those things. So the technology is going now, but we just got to get a framework in place so that they can make that investment and come here to Minnesota.
Speaking to the idea of a framework, your bill hopes to create a statewide regulatory framework. Tell me a bit more about why that's important to you.
Well, you know, you can't have a hodgepodge in the city. Like, for example, I think there's there's like 27 or 127 different municipalities within the 7-county metro area. And if you have one that opts out, and what's one of the amendments I did yesterday is that a city cannot opt out. It's got to be able to be operating in that city. Because, for example, if you want to get here to Minnetonka and there's 4 cities in between that don't allow it, it's just not going to be working. So you have to have a statewide program that it's going to allow anywhere. So if you get in a car and you want to go to a certain area, you know that you don't have a barrier of getting to that area. So I think just the statewide is the important thing to me, and important to the automated vehicle industry, that they just have to be able to get around and not be, you know, a hodgepodge of different cities having different regulations, different fees. So again, we think a statewide is better to make that happen more easily.
We actually already have some autonomous vehicles here. Lawnmowers. That was your idea. Your bipartisan bill, Senate File 75, allows the Department of Transportation to research and evaluate autonomous mower technology. How did that idea come about for you?
You know, I've said this story many times, but I drive back and forth from Faribault to St. Paul, and a lot of times you get stuck in traffic on Interstate 35, and it's backed up for miles and miles, and you think there must be some big accident, and you actually get through the traffic. It's them mowing the ditches, and you got the mowing vehicle, and you have 3 vehicles behind that. You have a vehicle ahead of that, so you have all this all these people working just to mow the lawn. So, and we want to be safe, and I get that. I just thought there must be a better way. So instead of driving down the freeway or the highway, why don't you mow it from the inside with something more automated that they're not affecting traffic as much? So I was at a tour of Cirrus Aircraft up in Duluth, and we started talking about these gentlemen who were doing robotics, and they were actually using robots to mow underneath solar fields. And I said, wow, that, you know, I just was thinking about that the other day, about doing it in ditches. So we can do that. So that made me start thinking about doing that. So we drafted a bill to start the program, to get a pilot, to see if we can get the technology to do that. So that's how it all started. It's progressing. They are doing testing. That bill did get passed. They're still not out mowing yet. They do have some other remote controlled ones for the steep slopes along a ramp, freeway ramp, and things like that. But the ones that are automated are not there yet. The bill that I did allowed for the purchase of one to test that. Originally, I wanted to test it on I-35 between Faribault and Burnsville, and they didn't think that was the best thing. They want to actually go to a test track. So MnDOT does have a test facility where they wanted to try that and do that. So hopefully it's coming along, and you know, it's not exactly where I want it yet, but hopefully they're working along, and I got to check in with them again to see where we're at, but they're not out there yet.
Well, in addition to helping with the flow of traffic, and also I would imagine improving safety for those road workers, this could save us money too, right?
Absolutely. You know, as I said, when you're driving up and you see that, you have 3 or 4 different vehicles, all using gas. You have 3 or 4 or 5 employees. So if you actually had the technology, you could have a lot less cost in doing that. So, and the safety, they're out of the right of way. It's not a human, so if there is an accident, they're not going to get hurt. So I think it's a great way that we can save money, be safer, and just be more efficient. So.
Well, I hope they pop up on your commute soon. All right, Senator, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me again.
Absolutely.